Katie the Novel Stitcher. It is Tuesday, June 4th, and this is Flosstube 36. This is a channel where I talk all about my love of cross stitch and share my cross stitching with you all and hear from you about what you're working on. And I also talk about books toward the end of every video, including my stitching book club, Stitches and Pages. So stick around if you want to hear more about that. And if you're a new subscriber, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to spend time with you. And if you're a returning subscriber, of course, I am so happy that you're back and sharing your stitching with me and allowing me to share my stitching with you. I love reading your comments, hearing about what's going on with your lives and what you're stitching on. So please leave me a comment if you'd like. And I'm also about 15 subscribers away from 2,000, which would be a really fun goal to get to. So if you're not already subscribed, please check and see, and please consider subscribing if you like my content and want to get notifications on when I post and want to support me in that way. So we're gonna dive in. I'm gonna start as always with the stitching. I have a good amount to share with you all today, and then we will talk about my book club, Stitches and Pages, because it is time for round 2. So at the end of this video, we will be voting on our next book that we will read in June and July, and then we'll be meeting up in July via Zoom to chat about the book. So for stitching, I have 1 start, 4 whips, I have some plans, I have a stitch along that I want to talk to you all about. I even have some haul this time. So let's get started because it's been about 3 weeks since my last video. I meant to film last week and my phone was having issues. So now I have a new phone and can film. So let's dive in. So the first thing I have is a new start, and this was a Memorial Day start as part of a Sal that Hollis Hands Create is doing. Christine, I think it's Hollis Hand Create Summer Sal. I'll put the hashtag on the bottom of the screen, and it started on Memorial Day, and it's to start something summery or patriotic that you will stitch through Labor Day and try to finish by Labor Day. I don't think I will finish this by Labor Day, but I kind of wanted to join in. I don't really have anything patriotic going. It's not my style of decoration, but I did want to start this one this summer, and so I thought that would work perfect. And it's Take Me Out to the Ballgame by Little House Needleworks. And I think baseball is, America's pastime, and it's got, red and white bunting and all of that. So I thought it would be a perfect semi-patriotic and definitely summery start for Memorial Day. And so I am stitching this one on a scrap of Steinbeck by Needle and Flax, which is one of my favorite fabrics. And I had just enough left in my stash for this pattern, which made me really happy. And this is a 36 count, and there's my little start. So not too much done, 2 words and a little bit of the bunting, but it was fun to start stitching this on Memorial Day and to get in the mood for summer and summery things. I am using mostly the called for DMC. It does call for Classic Colorworks too, but I didn't have a lot of that in my stash, so mostly using the DMC. The only thing I might do is find a nice variegated green for the grass. I think this is Weeping Willow by Classic Colorworks, so I might take a look and see if I still like that one. This pattern came out in 2012, so I'm not sure if the dye lots have changed, but I'm gonna look for a nice variegated green. Otherwise, keeping with the called for DMC for the most part. The only thing I might change is that all of these people watching the baseball game are white men, and I might try to add a little diversity in there, maybe turn one of them or 2 of them into women, and maybe add some different colored skin tones in there. I'm gonna see how I can do that, but I just wanted to make it a little bit different in that way. It has 1936, which I forgot to look up, but I'm assuming that that's the date of like the first, maybe the creation of the MLB or one of the first public baseball games played. I'm sure there's some significance there. And I'm sure the audience at that time was mostly men and mostly white men, but I want to add a little diversity in there. So I might switch that up, but otherwise I'll be sticking to how it's called for. So that was my new start. Just work on that here and there during the summer, but we'll see if I finish it by Labor Day. I'm not sure that I will, but you never know, might get a hankering to work on it more, so we'll see. And then I didn't have any finishes or fully finishes or anything like that, so we'll just move into whips. And of course, as you've seen many times, I'm still chugging along on O Joyous Day by Blackbird Designs. Absolutely love this pattern and I'm loving stitching on it, but it's been going for a while and I am ready to have this done so I can display it on my wall. Once I finish this, it'll be the biggest thing I have stitched. I've only been stitching for a couple years, and so I haven't finished anything as big as this, even though it's not super, super big by some cross-stitch standards. For me, it will be my biggest finish. And so I am using all the called for fancy floss and DMC with this one. I finally put these on floss drops because they were all disorganized. And this is so much better to work with them all organized. I mean, they're a little bit messy, but mostly organized and easier to just pull threads off of and do it that way. So I'm definitely going to be working on organizing my stash into a floss drop system. And I can talk more about this in another video because I'm afraid this one might be a little bit long and I'm trying to film this after work before Alex gets home. But I think I'm gonna use Adam Hart has floss bobbins. So basically it's your normal bobbin, but then it also has a hole that you can use it as a floss drop. So you can wind it up, stick it in a box and store it as a bobbin, and then while you're stitching, using it as a floss drop. So I ordered a pack of those and I can talk about it more when they come and let you know if I like them. I do know that Bridget the Museum Stitcher organized her floss that way and she has a whole video on how she does it. So if you're interested now in learning about those, check out her video. I will tag her and link her video below. But I remember her talking about these, and then I watched the video the other week to see if it would be something I was interested in, and it seems like a really nice way to both store and use your floss. So I'm gonna give that a try, and if it works out, all credit goes to Bridget. But here is my progress on O Joyous Day. This is also on 36 count Needle and Flax Steinbeck, and it's really coming along. I'm loving the colors. I love how it looks on this fabric. And so last time you saw it, I think I had finished most of the basket. It's been 3 weeks now, so I'm like, where was I at? But I think I had finished most of the basket, if not all of it. And so since then I did that zigzag border at the bottom and then started on this alphabet here. It's a little big, so it's a little hard to hold up. I don't have the biggest board here, but there's that bottom that I'm working on there. I'm missing one letter just because I had this floss in another project, so I need to pull that back out and finish that. But we're getting there. We're making good progress. There are like little dots. I think they're probably Smyrna or some other stitch that goes in here and up here, so I will need to do those at some point. And then I am saving the words O Joyous Day and the date above the house for the end. I have December, but I'm gonna rip that out and restitch it because I don't love how it looks. I'm gonna do this for Alex and I's wedding. So our wedding was December 2nd of last year. And so I'm gonna add December 2nd as the date for this one. And so I wanna finish this by the end of the month, or my real hope is June 20th, which is the first day of summer, because I'm gonna talk about a sal, and that's the day I wanna start the sal. But if I don't finish it by then, that's okay. It's summer, we've got some plans. Alex and I are hanging out a lot and doing activities outside and stuff like that. So it's a little less stitching going on. So we'll just see how much progress I can make in the next few weeks. But I have most of the alphabet done. So I have to do this satin stitch border here. And then all of these flowers down here, I have to finish up stitching these. These are almost, they're like about here and here. So just a little bit more here, and then this along the bottom. So it's only this row, really. So it's not that much, but these flowers are pretty dense and pretty big. And then you got these little doodads, the year, which I guess I'll put this year. Even though I'll have our wedding year up here, and then I'll have our initials O Joyous Day and December 2nd up there that I've got to stitch in. So making a lot of progress, hoping to finish it by June 20th, but at least definitely by the end of the month. And she will be done, and I will be able to get a beautiful frame and put her up in my office. And I'm actually getting my office, which is technically our living room, but I'm using it as an office, painted. We just got new sconces put up the other day, and I'm gonna paint it a different color, and so it's gonna be perfect. So I'm excited for that. So the next WIP I worked on was You Got This by the Artsy Housewife. Super cute little owl with his cup of coffee. I am not a human until I have my coffee in this I'm not a human until I've had my coffee in the morning. Just ask Alex, because I just mumble at him until I've had some coffee. Words don't come. So this is gonna go in my office at work, my cubicle. I don't have an office, my cubicle, to remind me on the tough days, you got this. And this project is my Stitching When Scout is in My Lap project, because Scout's my cat and she is a big fluffy girl, and I can't hold O Joyous Day in the 11 by 11 Q-snap and have her in my lap and be comfortable. So I leave this on the table next to me so that when she climbs up in my lap, I put O Joyous Day aside, and I work on this because it's in this Nurge hoop, which is much smaller and just easier to hold and manage while she's in my lap. And so You Got This is on a 28 count whisper, 2/2. The first two I showed you were both 36 count, and those were 1/1. So this is the 28 count 2/2. And I am using all of the called for, except that the lighter blue in the flower, which is also the color of the coffee cup, is Blue Moon by Classic Colorworks, and it's a more purpley color, and I liked the lighter blue. I think it looks better on the gray fabric, so I chose Cool Azul by Classic Colorworks instead. And so that's the only change there. And since you last saw it, finished up this flower, started on the other one, but really wanted to get to the owl. So I was like, at least if I do this, I can make sure I'm all even here. And I started on him, and he's gonna look super cool. So, or her. So I'm very excited to be working on this one. And it's nice at night if I'm tired. The 28 count is just very easy stitching. You know, a good amount of block, a little bit of confetti, but it's a really easy pattern to follow and a very simple stitch. So this one is really enjoyable, and it's not one I had really had in my plans to work on as much as I have, but I'm just really enjoying it. And you should always stitch what you're really enjoying. So that is that one. And are these the colors? These might be for something else. So next we're gonna talk about, and I don't think I showed this last time, the problem with not having film for 3 weeks. And I did film a video last Tuesday, and the problem with my phone was related to the audio. It was just awful. It was like going in and out. There was like fuzzy noise in the background. It was just not publishable, because that would not be fair to you all to have to watch that. So because I filmed that, and it has been 3 weeks, I don't remember what I showed you in my last video. So I don't know if this is repetitive, but a few weeks ago, I got together with some stitchy friends, and while I was there, I worked on one stitch at a time. It's possible I've already showed you my progress on this, but that's okay. This one was part of Stitches and Pages book club, my book club, for the first book, which was a single thread. So I chose something stitching themed to go with the book, since the book had embroidery as one of the subject matters. And we finished the book and had amazing Zoom discussions, and it was so much fun. So I cannot wait for the next one. But this is the project. I had no intention of finishing this within the time frame that we were meeting, and I did not, but that is fine. And this is my progress so far. This is on a 36 count Picture This Plus Legacy, and I didn't make a ton of progress since the last time you saw it. I think maybe I finished this, and I definitely finished up this bird and started on these berries right here. While I was stitching with the girls, I did like have to frog, because I realized I had to frog like halfway through because I was so busy chit-chatting. I didn't realize I had made some mistakes, but I fixed that and we're moving right along. So this one will just come out here and there as I feel like it, but it's really a beautiful pattern. This is a lovely fabric to stitch on. I love the color. So this is also one that I just enjoy picking up from time to time. And I think the colors that Lottie Da chose are just beautiful. They're all Weeks Dye Works, which is really nice to just be stitching all from the same thread dyer. And they're just these really pretty muted but colorful choice of palette. So yeah, really loving this one. So I'm mostly kind of just stitching on stuff here and there. In addition to finishing O Joyous Day, I'm kind of just picking up what is calling to me in the moment, which I'm enjoying. So having one kind of focus project and then just working on others as I feel. But another one that needs to get a lot of attention in the next 4 months or so is Reaping Love by Silver Creek Samplers. I've mentioned this before, but this is for my best friend for her wedding. She and her fiance are doing a 1950s vintage Halloween themed wedding. So think like black and white and black and reds and kind of just an old-fashioned Halloween kind of theme. They love Halloween and they just wanted to do something kind of funky. And I'm a bridesmaid and it's gonna be the weirdest, most fun wedding probably that I'll ever go to. So I'm stitching them this as their wedding present, kind of their wedding sampler, but fitting of the event and the theme. Instead of doing something with flowers and very traditional, I'm going funky with I Love You to Death and that funny Reaper. So this got a lot of work. And I'm stitching Reaping Love on a 36 count old stationery by Seraphim. Again, anything like 36 or 40 is one thread over 2. And I got a good amount of Mr. Reaper stitched. So last time maybe I just had his head or a little bit of his shoulders. Now we're getting down here. I did want to get like most of him done by the end of May and I did not succeed in that, but he's going to get a lot of attention upcoming. I'm using almost all of the called for. And I will say that I really like charcoal. So if anyone stitches this, Weeks Works charcoal looks very much like a variegated kind of dark green with a little bit of lighter green. And at first I was like, is that gonna work? Because usually you see him in all black. I'm not really sure, but I actually really like the texture that that variegation is giving. And just like, it just makes him feel more real and just the way the black interplays with it is really nice. So I'm greatly enjoying how that is stitching up with that variegation. And the only other thing I'm changing is for the heart there and the blood drop and then the little heart toward the bottom. I'm gonna go with Hugs and Kisses by Cottage Garden Threads because I just thought variegated would be cool and this is just the perfect kind of heart-shaped red. So that's what I'm doing for that one. So I went through that pretty quickly. So that is all of my whips. I mean, there's much more to share, but I went through the whips pretty quickly, which makes me happy. So that is everything I've worked on. And then we can talk about plans. So again, finishing up O Joyous Day, continuing on with Reaping Love to make sure I hit that. I have to fully finish it. Probably I'm gonna say by the 1st of October. The wedding's in mid-October, but I'm gonna pretend I have to finish it earlier to make sure I do. So gotta get good progress in on that one. I'll probably work on You Got This here and there as well when I have Scout Lap time. And then I do want to pull out Teresa Koget's Hometown. I don't have it here with me. You'll see it next time if I pull it out. That's the stitch along she's doing. It's going to be a long piece with a whole little town and all these buildings and houses. And I'm not even a little, I'm way behind on the SAL, which I'm okay with. I don't really need to be keeping up with it. But I also want to continue to make progress and stitch on it. And that's through her Patreon. If I didn't say that, that's a stitch along through Teresa Koget's Patreon. So you have to be a Patreon member to get the pattern for that. And she releases a new section on the 15th of every month. And you can still join in. If you're not a Patreon member, you can sign up. And I think it's like $1 for every previous release of the pattern, which I think is super fair. If you join in late to the game, you know, you just have to pay a small fee to get the previous releases for the pattern. So those are those plans. And then the next one is my stitch along. I haven't done a stitch along in a while, so I thought it would be fun to host one. And I was showing off Fairy Garden by Blackbird Designs a couple videos ago. this is what I want to start when I finish O Joyous Day, so I kind of always have a Blackbird going. I thought would be fun, and this is just a cute, simple one because I want to keep my starts to smaller ones. I'm trying to finish things more than I start things this year, and I really want to keep my starts where I can a little bit smaller so that I can make more progress because I have a lot of bigger whips going, so I want to have some smaller starts. And so I was thinking whether I wanted to do a fairy garden sal, because a lot of people said they have this pattern and were wanting to start it. But I also like the idea of being like super inclusive in case this isn't your style. And so instead it's going to be the Stitch a Garden Sal. So the hashtag is down here. And you can just stitch anything that is a garden. Either a pattern with a garden in it, or a pattern that is a garden or has the word garden. It's just the Stitch a Garden Sal, and it will start on the first day of summer, because what's more summery than a garden full of flowers or vegetables if you're a vegetable person. And so join in with me, please. Let me know if you're gonna be stitching Fairy Garden, which is so cute. I have the floss for this. I just need to pick out a fabric. But I really like the little house. I just love that little house. That just sold me on this pattern. So let me know if you're gonna be stitching Fairy Garden, or look through your stash and see if there's something else you have that has a garden in it, and let me know if you're gonna join in and what you'll be stitching. And I thought that would just be a really fun little summer sal. No like end date, no kind of, it's more of a start along, I suppose, but I want you all to be sharing your progress and letting me know what you're stitching, but no rules besides stitch something with a garden and start with us on the first day of summer. And you can share any progress with me via the hashtag, and please also tag me. I am novel_stitcher on Instagram. Sometimes the hashtags, it can be kind of hard to see all of the posts from everyone, so if you tag me, I will definitely see it, and maybe even share it on my channel so we can see what everyone's stitching. So Stitch a Garden Sal will start on June 20th, and I'm excited to start this one, but I gotta get O Joyous Day moving, so we'll see how that goes. And then I do have haul, because Alex and I went to visit my parents this past weekend. And we weren't planning on it, but we ended up going to Berlin, Maryland. My parents live in Delaware by the beach, not like a half an hour from the beach. But town can be really busy in the summer, and we were trying to figure out what to do on Saturday, and my mom suggested going out to lunch in Berlin and walking around, and I was like, that's where the cross stitch store is. And she's like, we can go, and Alex was okay with us going. So Salty Yarns, if you've heard of it, is in Berlin, Maryland, and we got to go to Salty Yarns, which I was super excited about. Now, while I was excited about it, I don't do well when I shop with other people around me, at least like other non-stitchers. I've never shopped with stitchers, but I'm assuming that would be a better experience. Much love to my parents and to Alex, but I just felt a little, first of all, I feel overwhelmed in Salty Yarns because there are a lot of patterns and a lot of fabric. It's huge. The shop is huge. If you live anywhere near it, or visiting the Delaware, Pennsylvania, Maryland area, I highly recommend it. They have a great selection, but then you get like overwhelmed and you're like, well, what do I even want? Because we weren't planning on going, so I didn't like have any list or idea in mind. And then like my mom and Alex were like following me around and being like, this is cute, oh, what's that, oh, look at all the fabric. And I'm like, I don't know what to do, and I don't want to waste everyone's time by being here for 2 hours, but I really need 2 hours. And my dad was just sitting in the front playing on his phone, and I really wanted to be like, hey, Mom and Alex, want to go chat with my dad and let me browse by myself? But I love them, and they're wonderful people. So I kind of grabbed a mishmash of things. So first thing I didn't grab, my mom grabbed for me to stitch for her. And so she liked this one from Lizzie Kate. Spooky Treats, is that the name? No. Does it have a name for the whole Stitch the Boo Club series? So it's a series, and it's for Halloween, and it's got like spooky treats, black cat, spiders, all that kind of good stuff. And so they have a model of this, and she was like, I want you to stitch that. And I was like, okay, I can stitch that. So we had the shop owner help us find these, and then I kind of explained to my mom it would take me a long time to stitch this whole thing, and it's pretty long. And I was like, I don't have to stitch the whole thing. Each card has 2. You can pick out however many, you know, you want, and I'll just stitch those. And so that's kind of what's nice about these kind of patterns, is you can kind of make it your own. So she chose Spooky and Treats, Pumpkins and Fright, and Brew and Monster. And so I will be stitching this for her. I will probably start it this fall. She said that I don't have to finish it in any certain amount of time, and there's no way I could with everything else I have to stitch. And she knows I'm stitching the thing for Stacy, for my friend, for her wedding. So she was like, just get it to me whenever. So I'm gonna start it in the fall with the hopes of finishing it next, probably by her birthday's in August, so maybe her birthday next year. So I have to find a fabric and then get stitching. And she's a wonderful lady, but because she wanted me to stitch this for her, she just said I could get what I wanted and she would pay. So this was a free stitchy trip, which was nice, but I tried not to be too crazy because I didn't want to be greedy if she was willing to treat me. So the next thing I got, because you can never have too much fabric, is Picture This Plus Bramble in 36 count. So it's just a really nice variegated gray, a little tone of brown. Very pretty. I've seen a lot of people stitch on this, and this is just like such a nice color, and like anything could really look good on this. So that was perfect. And they do have at Salty Yarns a whole big wall of fabric that you can have them cut for you, but I was being indecisive. The shop lady was off toward the front. Not that if I had asked her, she wouldn't have come back and helped me, but she wasn't like immediately there to help me cut. And then I didn't want to like waste time trying to figure out what fabric I wanted and having her come and cut it and decide on the size. So they also have just like little packs of pre-cut fabric. So I just kind of like rifled through those and grabbed a few things. Because again, with other people around, I don't want to waste people's time and I get nervous. So, but that was a good call, because then I saw that they had the Castle, which is the Fabulous House Series 2 from Cottage Garden Samplings. And my mom saw me like looking at this and she was like, oh, get that, I like that. So I got this, and I think it's gonna look, this was on Prehistoric 40 count by Fox and Rabbit, but I think it would look really good on the Bramble. So I'm gonna see if the colors work to stitch on that. I think that's so cute. Just such a pretty one. And then I got Most Wonderful by Shakespeare's Peddler. I hadn't really seen this one before, and I thought this was really cute. I can get some little snowflakes maybe. And I love how it's just this garland with all these little gingerbread men, the skate, the snowman, and the present and the mitten. It's just really pretty and like delicate, and I love how they did this. And it's mostly DMC. And it really shouldn't take that long to stitch. So I think this will be a start around Christmas. So that's really pretty. And then I saw this last time I was in Salty Yarns. I've only been there twice, and I think I went last summer when I visited my parents. And they had this out and I didn't grab it. And so this time I did, which is Seasons of the Heart by Brenda Gervais. I'm sure you've all seen this one before, but they're just so cute and so pretty. And I just love the way she did it. So there's spring with those pretty flowers. Summer, don't do much patriotic, but this is just the perfect amount. It's not too crazy patriotic, but it's got the flags and it's really cute with the little beehives, bee skips. And then I love autumn the most because I love that owl and the pumpkins, and autumn is my favorite season. And then winter with the little snowman. So this is just so fun. And I'm gonna get a sewing machine for my birthday, and I'm gonna learn how to sew, and I'm gonna make pillows. So I probably will start this starting in the winter, around Christmas or maybe in January, and then try to stitch each one in the season, or at least start each one in the season next year, or end of this year leading into next year. By December, if I get a sewing machine, in September, hopefully by December I will know how to sew a pillow. and be able, well, even if I start those in December, they wouldn't be finished for a bit anyway. So I got that. And then the last thing I got, which I did not realize till I got home and I opened it, is a weird size. So I really love the color. It's Colonial Parchment by Fabric by Stephanie, and it's a 40 count, and it's 21 by 6. And I just was like looking at fabric and looking at the color and the count, and I didn't think to look at the size of this. I thought it was cut differently. So it is like a nice little long, thin guy. So I was like, oh, okay, what did I buy? And what am I gonna stitch on this? Because it is pretty. It's a very pretty color. It's a little bit more orange pink toned than it's showing. This makes it almost look brown, I think. But it's more peachy. It's much more peachy. No, but it's more peachy. So I was like, what am I gonna find that would fit on a 21 by 6, especially the 6. And then I realized on my wish list, and I can put it here because I don't own it yet, I really liked Pumpkin Row by October House Fiber Arts. And I was like, well, that would work. This is more peachy than it's looking, so it would be good for Halloween. And that one's the right size, so I think I'm gonna get that pattern. I'm gonna make a little pumpkin row. And so that's what I'm gonna use for this. So that is my warning if you're buying them and they have just like the tag on it. Maybe double check what the size is before you're just like, oh, pretty color and 36 count, perfect. And then you don't look at what size you're buying. But I think we all know that you can make anything work in cross stitch. Things keep sliding off the chair. Any color, you can find the right pattern for it when it comes to fabric most of the time. So I think that's everything for the stitching. So yeah, pretty good haul. I haven't had haul like that in a while because I'm trying to be good. But when you're driving through a town with one of the best LNSs on the East Coast, you gotta, or at least that I've been to. There's probably a lot of other awesome LNSs on the East Coast, but I have not been too many. So for me, Salty Yarns is the best one I've been to personally. So I had to stop, and then my mom was a darling and treated me. So I'm very fortunate for that. And we had a really nice weekend, and it was perfect weather. So I like visiting my parents. They're wonderful people. So that was fun. So that's it for the stitching. So if you're not here for the book club or the book talk, thank you so much for sticking around and listening in. Hopefully I didn't blab too much or anything. I hope you liked what I'm working on. Let me know what you're working on. Do you do a lot of stitching in the summer, or are you busy with summer plans? What are you working on? Do you have any summer stitchy plans or things you're excited to start soon? And let me know if you want to participate in my Stitch a Garden stitch along. So thanks for joining, and let's talk books. I'm going to take a quick sip of water. So first I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who participated in the Zooms for Stitches and Pages, or even, if you weren't able to make the Zoom for any reason, who messaged me, who posted on Instagram, who just showed any excitement for it. It went so fantastically. I didn't know what to expect when I thought about doing this. I didn't know if anyone would be interested. I didn't really know how to run it. Or what the right way to do it would be. I didn't even know if people would like whatever book we voted on, and I think the discussions were fantastic. Some people loved the book, some people were mixed on it, but that made for great discussion. Everybody was very polite and respectful during the Zooms, and willing to share their thoughts and share their stitching. Some people just listened in, which was totally fine. You are welcome to just sit back and stitch and listen to the conversation. That is perfectly acceptable. And besides for a little bit of my laptop being a jerk for the second one and the sound not working, everything went really smoothly. So thank you so much for joining in. There were probably a couple people where there were some hiccups with you joining in. So if you want to join into the Zooms this time, just give it a test. You can go on zoom.com and schedule a meeting for free. So you could schedule it with a friend or a husband or spouse or a coworker or a child or whomever, and just practice. Make sure your sound is working if you want to be able to talk in your video and all of that. So that's just a tip there. And then just a reminder, especially for anyone who's new here and didn't join the book club last time, what we're going to do is in this video, I'm going to give some suggestions for books to read for the next go around, which we'll read the book in June and July, and then we'll meet at the end of July to discuss the book. So you'll have about 2 months, a little under 2 months to read the book. So I'll give suggestions in this video. You'll all vote in the comments using the title of the book that you would most like to read. And I tally up the votes, and I'm actually going to just do a little Flosstube extra next week, or this weekend probably, to announce the book. So today is Tuesday, June 4th. Probably by around Saturday or Sunday, I'll have a video posted announcing the next book, and that's all that the video will include. I think that might be easier too, then people don't have to watch a full Flosstube maybe to find out what book it is in case they're busy. Once we vote on the book, everybody will have time to read it. Also start stitching something or pull out a whip in relation to the book if you would like. If you can't, that's okay, but depending on the book we pick, it's kind of fun to try to find a stitching pattern that matches the title of the book, the theme of the book, the genre, anything like that. And then probably sometime in like late June, I will post a Flosstube, and it will have in it a link to a Google form that you will fill out to help decide what days and times. So that is just a way to kind of vote on days and times. So I'll release that. And then after you fill that out, I pick 2 Zooms based on what people have for availability. And once I decide, like, we're going to meet this day at this time and this day at this time, at that point, I will have probably another Flosstube extra just to make it easy, where in the description, I will have links to a form that you fill out to officially be registered for the Zoom at that time. So I think there was a little confusion about how to join in or register. And the reason I do these Google Forms is it makes it really easy for me to keep track of all your addresses. So say we met on the 18th of last month, people who were able to come to the 18th meeting filled out that form, and what it did is I can then generate an Excel spreadsheet. It collects all of your email addresses, and I can just copy and paste them into an email. I don't have to hunt them down in my own email or look in Instagram or anything like that. It makes it just really easy for me to make sure that I get everyone. I might have missed 1 or 2 people. I'll be better about copying and pasting the full list next time, but just make sure you fill out that form and listen to my Flosstubes or those Flosstube extras to kind of get all the details, because I don't want anyone to miss out because they just misunderstood like what the directions were. And you can always message me on Instagram at any time or email me at any time. All of that is in the description of this video. If you have any extra questions or you aren't sure if you filled out the form and if it worked, once I release those, you can contact me and be like, hey, did you get my form submission? And I can check and make sure you're all good. So let's talk about the books. So I did mean if I was able to film last week, I meant to get more suggestions from people, and I don't want to delay this too much. So I did have a couple people reach out with recommendations, and then I just went through my book stack and picked out a few things. So this is like a cobbled together of some recommendations from me and a couple from you all. And so I'm going to go through each book, give you a little description, page count, some of the kind of words that might relate to the book, of the feeling of the book, and then you will just put which one you think you would most like to read in the comments. So we're going to start, and this is one I grabbed from Stash. Is it Stash? TBR in book world. Whiskey When We're Dry. And this is by John Larison. And Whiskey When We're Dry, in the spring of 1885, 17-year-old Jessalyn Harney finds herself orphaned and alone on her family's homestead. Desperate to fend off starvation and predatory neighbors, she cuts off her hair, binds her chest, saddles her beloved mare, and sets off across the mountains to find her outlaw brother Noah and bring him home. Told in Jess's wholly original and unforgettable voice, Whiskey When We're Dry is a stunning achievement. So that's Whiskey When We're Dry. And I use an app called Storygraph. It's a lot like Goodreads, but it's built by readers and for readers, so I like it a little better than Goodreads. And what Storygraph does is you can kind of, when you review the book, you can put like words or rate how the book made, like topics of the book. You'll understand when I say this. I don't know the words for what those are, but basically Whiskey When We're Dry on Storygraph got a 4.2 rating out of 5. It's 416 pages, so it's a little bit of a longer one. It's a little bit more chunky. And it was called adventurous, emotional, tense, and a little bit sad. About 44% of people said it was sad. So that is Whiskey When We're Dry. If that sounds like something you'd like to read, put the name in a comment. And this is like a really eclectic selection, I think, of books. So the next one is quite different, but it is another one I pulled off my shelf. Queen Sugar by Natalie Bazile, if I'm saying that correctly. And so for this one, when Charlie Bordelon, an African-American single mother, unexpectedly inherits 800 acres of sugarcane land, she and her 11-year-old daughter say goodbye to the smog and sprawl of Los Angeles and head to the tropical expanse of Louisiana. She soon learns, however, that cane farming is always going to be a white man's business. As the sweltering summer unfolds, Charlie struggles to balance the overwhelming challenges of a farm in decline with the demands of family and the startling desires of her own heart. So that sounds like a great summer read. The author is Black, and I want to make sure we're reading diversely. So we did read a white woman last time, just pointing it out, but vote for whatever book you think sounds best. But this one sounds really good too. And on Storygraph, this got a 3.68 stars out of 5, 372 pages, so a little bit shorter. It's emotional, hopeful, reflective, and tense. I'm going to do 2 more, so we're going to have 4 to choose from just to give everyone a good selection and see what you all kind of like to read. The next one was a recommendation from one of you. I own this book and I do not know where it is, so I'm going to read off of my iPad, and then I'm going to find this book because I do want to read it. And it is, put a picture here, The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. And so the description: in Manhattan, a young grad student gets off the train and realizes he doesn't remember who he is, where he's from, or even his own name. But he can sense the beating heart of the city, see its history, and feel its power. In the Bronx, a Lenape gallery director discovers strange graffiti scattered throughout the city, so beautiful and powerful it is as if the paint is literally calling to her. In Brooklyn, a politician and mother find she can hear the songs of her city pulsing to the beat of her Louboutin heels. Did I say that right? I don't own shoes like that. And they're not the only ones. Every great city has a soul. Some are ancient as myths, and others are as new and destructive as children. New York, she's got 6. And so this is more like science fiction fantasy. I think it's basically like every one of the boroughs in New York like has a personality, and it's kind of about that. It is a duology. Oh, I thought it was a standalone, but it's a duology, which means there's 2. But I think that's okay. There'll just be a sequel. But I read N.K. Jemisin's Broken Earth series, and it was fantastic. Now that's complicated fantasy, Broken Earth. You'd have to actually be like know fantasy or be familiar with fantasy. Well, I guess it's more science fiction. You have to be more comfortable with complicated world buildings and complicated characters for the Broken Earth series. I think The City We Became, I can't guarantee it, but I think it's probably a little bit more simple, a little bit less complex. I know science fiction fantasy is probably one of the lesser popular genres as compared to maybe historical fiction or just regular fiction, but I love science fiction and fantasy. The City We Became on Storygraph got a 4.01 stars out of 5, 437 pages, so it would be the longest one. It was called adventurous, mysterious, tense, and a little bit dark. About 30% of people said it was dark. And then the last one is quite different. I will say N.K. Jemisin is a Black author. And the last one is much more summery, if that's what we're feeling. And it is Funny Story by Emily Henry. It is romance. I like Emily yeah, it's romance, I would say. I really like Emily Henry. I've read most of her books. She's a lot of fun. She's a good writer, and very light, fluffy. It's a good time. So, Funny Story. Daphne always loved the way her fiance Peter told their story, how they met on a blustery day, fell in love over an errant hat, and moved back to his lakeside hometown to begin their life together. He was really good at telling it, right up until the moment he realized he was actually in love with his childhood best friend, Petra, which is how Daphne begins her new story. I don't know how I feel about Daphne and Petra, but we'll get over it. Stranded in beautiful Waning Bay, Michigan. Which is how Daphne begins her new story. Stranded in beautiful Waning Bay, Michigan, without friends or family, but with a dream job as a children's librarian, and proposing to be roommates with the only person who could possibly understand her predicament, Petra's ex, Miles Nowak. Scruffy and chaotic, with a penchant for taking solace in the sounds of heartbreak love ballads, Miles is exactly the opposite of practical buttoned-up Daphne, whose coworkers know so little about her they have a running bet that she's either FBI or in witness protection program. The roommates mainly avoid one another until one day, while drowning in their sorrows, they form a tenuous friendship and a plan. If said plan also involves posting deliberately misleading photos of their summer adventures together, well, who could blame them? But it's all just for show, of course, because there's no way Daphne would actually start her new chapter by falling in love with her with her ex-fiance's new fiance's ex, right? That was confusingly put in the description. But anyway, I like Emily Henry. Her stuff is just light and funny, and obviously this is about a woman who roommates with her fiance's new girl's ex, and they fall in love because it's a romance. You know what happens at the end. This is not a surprise. But Funny Story got 4.45 stars out of 5 on Storygraph. It's 387 pages. Funny, emotional, lighthearted, and hopeful. So just a fun little summer read, and I like Emily Henry. So those are your options. We've got quite a varied selection this time, so hopefully there's something you like. Hopefully there's something the majority of people like. So we have Whiskey When We're Dry, Queen Sugar, The City We Became, and Funny Story. So put the title of the one you are most interested in reading in June and July in the comments, and I will announce the winner by this weekend, by Saturday or Sunday. And then from there, we will get stitching and get reading, and we will have our Zooms in late July, which I'm excited for. And then one last little plug. I do have a Buy Me a Coffee. If you are interested in contributing and supporting my channel and the work I'm doing with the book club and in general, please consider donating. You do not have to. It is not required. It is just a way to support me if you so choose. So that link is in my bio. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for participating in the book club, those who did, and I hope those who didn't have a chance to this time around. It's going to be so much fun once again, and I'm just so thrilled with how it's going, and with all your support. It really, really means so much to me, and I'm just so happy. So thank you all so much, and happy stitching and happy reading. Bye, everyone.